Hi guys, bienvenidos to the Vida podcast. I wanted to come on and film this episode. Obviously, I've always talked about how anytime that I record an episode, it just comes straight from the heart. I feel like God's timing is always perfect, and today's episode is going to be a huge representation of that. It's crazy because when I started this podcast, I was always hoping to inspire and motivate. And hear me out when I say this episode today is, in a sense, not going to be to motivate you. And I know that sounds crazy, especially coming from me, but stay with me because I know your first thought's like, what do you mean she's not here to like motivate? And the reality of it is I'm here to be completely transparent. I feel like I've always done that. I've always been transparent. I've always been authentic, especially on my platform. Not only that, but I'm sure you guys can tell as audience members that I've always aimed to be authentic, but I just wanted to talk about some truths here. I've also talked about in the past how having a business, being in the light of social media and having platforms, I feel like has put me on this I guess invisible pedestal, or like it's put me in a place of not responsibility. I don't know exactly what to call it, but it's just kind of put me in this pressure of feeling like, it's hard to be present on social media and it's hard to be an example while I'm still figuring it out along the way. And I feel like I've tried to keep that up for a while now. And it's not that it's not genuine. It's not that it's not authentic. It's just at the end of the day, I'm human too. And I know that you guys have heard me say that before, but today I'm just going to completely say the truth. And the truth is that the last few months, I reached the ultimate burnout. Like it just usually takes that one, what is it, like the needle in the haystack that ends up getting you to crack. And I know that people would think that because I'm such an inspiration and because I'm so motivational and because of my upbringing and my background, that just comes natural, right? That I'm just always having this strength. And the reality of it is that even though I've been saying that I'm learning along the way, I think that at the age that I've gotten to now that I'm 28, you get to an age where you can no longer blame your parents or you can no longer blame your upbringing for your actions or the way that you react to things. However, at the age of 28, I am having to completely rewire my brain. And I feel like that's where this isn't me being intentional in aspects of wanting to be motivational. It's just me being completely transparent. And if that ends up resonating with somebody, then perfect. But let me just get straight into it. I've talked about it before, how I'm the only reliable sibling and I'm always there for, my family members. I was raised by my dad, so I've always been there for him. And that's always been my story, right? Like always being present for my family, being present in my business, being present, in everything that I do, and I kind of just reached a point where I just broke. Like it just became too much. I was like, I can't record. I have nothing to tell these people. I have nothing. And I know you guys are probably listening like, what do you mean you have nothing to say? You have so much knowledge and wisdom. And I think that my control or my drive or my success has, like I said before, all come out of survival. So to me, it wasn't something that was worth applauding. Now, I stated earlier in this episode, just a few moments ago, that you get to an age where you cannot blame your upbringing or your parents for the way that you react to things. And that's not what I'm trying to do here at all. I'm just trying to state that this is why my nervous system is the way that it is. And this is why my nervous system is shot. One event has taken place after another. I'm only reiterating what has happened, not to sound like a broken record, but just for those who are new here. Let me go just down the timeline, right? So I started my business in April of 2021. TikTok blew me up in October of 2021. I ended up relocating in 2022 of August. By November, I was married in 2022. In 2023, my brother passes away in February. By, I want to say June, I'm getting a divorce. August of 2023, I'm also getting a shop. And I spent pretty much the whole year just starting that from the ground up, right? And a lot of my friends during this time, because people noticed, like I was absent on social media, I was absent in the podcast, I was absent on my business page, I wasn't posting. I would post here and there on my close friends. And I finally just kind of was transparent on my close friends. And I just told everybody like, I'm not okay. And this is the thing, guys, I've tried to like talk about it a little bit on the podcast, but because I've felt this unsaid pressure, like nobody put me in that category of being like a motivational speaker. Nobody put that pressure on me. And that's the transparent part that I'm trying to be honest about, is that you become a prisoner in your own mind when you have when you're honestly ambitious and when you're also super hard on yourself. I'm super, super hard on myself. And that has been what's gotten me to be where I am at today. But it's also what caused my burnout. And like I said, I've tried to talk about it a little bit on the podcast, but it kind of just got to the point where I was like, how do I motivate you guys when I can't even motivate myself right now? Why? Because I think I'm so used to like, what's next? What's next? What's next? Not only because that's been my survival, but also too, like the business and the industry that I'm in. We're constantly evolving. We're constantly, you know, especially too, like once you start to get, recognition. I was going to say it in Spanish. Like I was going to be like, oh, pegue. But like, once you start to get recognition on social media, like you're like, okay, like, I mean, and I've never allowed it to get to me. I never have. But again, you start to put this pressure on yourself. Like, all right, like I got to get like another win. Like I got to do it again. I got to do it again. And it starts to happen with everything. Like what's next for my business? What's next for the podcast? What's next for this? And it got to a point where like, it wasn't even the pressure of like financially putting up for the podcast. It was more, I promise you guys, it was more like emotional and mental, because I was like, how do I motivate these people? So in all aspects of my life, right? Given the events that I just stated, all that have happened, I know some people probably hear like, damn, like that's been a lot. Like she should have got tired a long time ago. I've even stated that before. It almost feels like a treadmill is running underneath you and you try to keep up. And then you figure like, if I run just a little bit like harder and a little bit longer and a little bit stronger, I'll have a little bit of time to breathe. But that's not what ended up happening. And for those of you who speak Spanish, this is easier for me to say it in Spanish. You know, a veces yo siento que tengo la agua hasta el cuello. Like I'm paddling to be able to stay afloat. And then here comes something else. And it's draining. I'm 28 years old. And because I'm so hard on myself, I almost feel like I've done nothing for myself. And I know people hear that and they're probably like, what do you mean? Like you have this platform on social media, you have a business, like you've been so successful, but I don't know. It's like, I guess what was missing was me being able to pour into myself. And it's crazy because I'm a service provider and I sit here on this platform and I tell you guys, pour into yourself, set boundaries. And then it's like, yeah, trust me, I try to practice that. I try to practice what I preach, but it's so unfamiliar to me. I don't know how to do that. I myself feel bad when I set boundaries with my family of like, hey, call my brother. Like I cannot help with that right now. I'm busy. I have my own life, you know, given if I was just laid up at home, not doing anything. And I'm not sitting here saying like, oh, don't serve your parents, you know, because you guys also know I have my faith and it says, you know, honor your father and mother. But I was just getting pulled from every different aspect is what I'm trying to get at. Every time my phone's ringing, it's something regarding business. If my phone's ringing on my personal phone, it's most likely like my family, like calling for something. Granted, I have the few family members that are the acceptance of they just call to check up on me. But I can truly say that this is where it started taking a turn, right? Because I'm telling you guys about the sequence of events, how my nervous system got shot, how I got burnt out. And finally, it was just like 1 week where it was just like one thing after another. And along those events, right? Because life be lifing, bro. Like just when you think that you're going to catch up, life's like, here, I got something for that ass. Like for real. Like, no, for real. Like when it rains, it pours, bro. And I'm like I said, I already feel like yo tengo la agua hasta el cuello. Like I cannot, like, you know, and so whatever. Along with being ambitious is where all that pressure comes. So I think that's what I was feeling the most, right? And when I come on this platform, it's crazy because as I'm losing my medulla, everyone's like, you're so motivational. You're such an inspiration. And I'm like, on the other end, I'm like, what? This is survival. Like I couldn't, and again, not to try to blame my upbringing for how I react to things, right? Because I'm becoming my own person. And I think that's the scariest part is because at the ripe age of 28, I'm becoming my own person. I'm having to unlearn certain habits. I'm having to rewire my brain and I'm doing it with no guidance. And your mind can make you almost feel like a prisoner, trapped in your own mind where you feel so alone. And this is where I started to learn. I started to learn from my friends around me. Believe it or not, as much as I felt so alone in my struggle, as much as I felt so alone, despite the social media platforms, despite my business, despite everything, I still felt so alone. And I had to take a look at my friends, and I would vent to my friends and I'd be like, dude, how are you doing it? And they're like, bro, I'm just figuring it out. And I started to become hard on myself. And I was like, how is it that you've been through worse and you don't know how to figure this out? But this is the first time I'm at the age of 28, having to unlearn these habits, having to try to figure it out on my own. And even when I was talking to my producer, because I gave him a call, literally, usually we film like on Tuesdays, episode will be out by Friday, whatever. But I called him midweek this week, and I was like, Mama, like, I need to record this. I need to talk about this, because I started to keep saying, this is kind of how it all started. For those of you guys, obviously, like I said in this episode, my brother passed away and he left behind a best friend. Shout out to Nancy. But she gave me a call, right? And she was like, girl, where have you been? Like, and mention you, I'm so used to people calling my phone for something. Mention you, I'm a service provider. So it's like, hey girl, can I reschedule? Or hey, and I know that that's what I signed up for, right? But when it's happening in all other aspects of my life as well, it starts to get draining, because I'm spreading myself too thin. And the most important part was I was not pouring into myself, right? And she pretty much calls me and she's like, yo, like, where you been at? What's going on? And I'm like, girl, I'm just going through it. Like, I'm just, whatever. And I started telling her. And I started to hear myself that every solution that she gave me, I had like almost like a negative response to. She's like, well, why don't you start teaching it? I'm like, it's not the economy for it. Nah, it's too much. And she's like, well, why don't you record another episode? I'm like, dude, I can't motivate these people right now. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing in my personal life. And she's like, well, why don't you just change the scene? I just want to be at home. Like, and it took me having that conversation out loud to be like, this is not you at all. Like, you sit there, te tiras al agua, and then you figure it out. Meaning, like, you throw yourself to the deep end, the water, and then you figure it out. That's what you do, Ash. And I'm like, but my nervous system is shot. I'm at the age of 28 and I want to be at peace. I want to, and I started thinking about like, dude, honestly, I just want to go to work, make my money and come home. I don't want to sit there and guys, again, I'm being so vulnerable with the talks and the prison that I had in my own mind. I just want to go to work. And this is crazy, right? Because it doesn't even sound like me. I was like, I just want to go to work, come home and not care. And like, not have to worry about like me motivating somebody else, not have to worry about like listening, being like almost like, because I have a servant's heart. I don't want to sit there and like hear somebody's problems. Like, I feel so alone. I feel like it's just me. Nobody understands what I'm going through. And then my friends would be like, yo, where you been at? Like, are you good? And I just be like, yeah, I just got a lot. And they'd be like, girl, me too. This and that happened. And I'm like, oh, so I'm not the only person going through it. And it took me seeing so many of my friends that on the outside, right? Because that's also what social media is for. Social media is a facade. It's an illusion. And it's so crazy because I've always said, like, don't believe everything you see on social media. And I've always stated that. But even I fell victim to believing that everybody had it together around me as well. And I was like, whoa. And I wear my heart on my sleeve. That's why I started to feel it so much, right? But I think it took me getting to such a low place. And I wouldn't call that rock bottom. I wouldn't, that's not rock bottom, okay? Tranquilos. I'm not saying that. But I got to a place just where mentally I felt so burnt out. I felt like my light turned off. I felt like my ambition for life was just shot because I've been in survival. The sequence of events that I stated in the beginning of this podcast have happened over the last 4 years, almost 5 years of my life. Almost 5 years went by just like that. I was 23 when I had the idea to start my business. I'm now 28. And we're in August. Holidays are around the corner. Next thing you know, April's going to be coming around. I'm 29. That's close to 30. Like, that's how my brain thinks, But it took me having so much built up anxiety to be like, honestly, like, what are you doing? Like, you say like, what's next in my future? What's next? But then I would be the same one in my head to be like, oh, but I don't want to start something new all over again. I don't want to branch out. And I'm like, and then you know what started happening? I started seeing everybody around me grow. And I was like, oh, shoot. Wait, hold on. I don't want to get left behind. And I was like, no que no. No que no, you're tired. No que you don't want to do this. No que no, that you just wanted to be comfortable. No que no, like you just wanted to stay where you're at. Like, oh, so now what? And I was like, and so I was having the conversation with my brother's best friend, and I'm hearing myself like give her so many respuestas, so many responses, so like dead end. Like, no, I can't do that because of this. No, I can't do that. And I'm mentioning the whole time God's working in me, because he's like, and also too, for someone who talks a lot about faith, this is where I'm going to be so transparent. I felt like such a prisoner in my own mind that I started to feel like a hypocrite. I was like, where's your faith? You talk so much about faith. You talk about how God is going to provide. You talk about how God provides enough. You talk about how God is always redirecting you. You talk about how God doesn't punish you. He just realigns you. And then here you are, scared. And granted, I'm human, right? And I have to be merciful with myself. But I started to stay in that fear, and you don't grow in comfort. And the hardest thing is taking a look in the mirror. And that's where I was like, oh, if I take a look in the mirror, I'm going to have to realign. And I'm so tired from my past that how do I move forward? But it just felt uncomfortable to stay stuck. And I think that it felt more negative and uncomfortable to stay stuck than it feels to grow. Because now I'm looking forward to things. I started to work on a couple different projects, and I was like, okay, like my mind started being stimulated again. And it took me having that conversation where I just, on a whim, I called my producer and I'm like, please, if you have time, like, let's film this week. And he's amazing. Like off the rip, he's like, yeah, like, let's do it. And even as I was telling him, I was like, Mama, like, I feel like I'm doing this all by myself with no guidance and this and that. And I started giving examples of like, well, so-and-so knows how to do it because, you know, like they've been taught that. He was like, yeah, but I think people just know how to handle it differently. And it was crazy to me because I was like, wait, how do I not know how to handle this? I've known how to handle everything else. And it's crazy because I feel like the older that I get, the more, I guess, fearful I become, because, and this is, again, me being super transparent, it's super uncomfortable. And you guys would think that because I've had the podcast, you're like, why is it uncomfortable for her, you know? And I think it's because the first time I'm having to explain like, I wouldn't want to call it a weakness, but I felt weak in my redirection. That's what it was. I felt weak in my redirection. And I was just like, okay, like, you need to start to create. You need to start to do something. This isn't like you. Every day felt like there was not enough hours in the day because I prioritize work. And it's like, how do I fund all this, right? It's like, how do I fund everything? And that I think is why it got so scary, because I was like, not the funding part, is I'm saying like, okay, you know that you're the only one pulling weight. My family needs something, there I am. You know, so-and-so needs something, like, there I am. You know, so-and-so needs a late night appointment, there I am. If someone wants to reschedule, there I am. Like, and I wasn't showing up for myself. And I was like, hold on. If you just start to set boundaries though, it won't have to go like that. And then I was like, oh, like, I for real gotta set boundaries now? Like, I gotta start to say no? Like, it felt so uncomfortable to me. And granted, yeah, my version of setting boundaries was like, cut off. That's it. Like, but there's certain things where like, or certain relationships, right? Which is crazy because I've always said like, if you don't like that, cut that person off, right? But what am I going to do? Cut off my dad? What am I going to do? Cut off my brother? What am I going to do? Like, so I had to start learning that you can't run away from everything. You can't run away from everything. Like, you have to be able to just say, no, I can't do that. Hey, call my brother, call somebody else. I have enough on my own plate. Like, I had to learn how to not run away from things. And I had to learn that I'm in control of my own destiny. And I'm also having to realize, like, you have to not fall short in other places. You have to set these healthy boundaries, right? Because to me, again, my interpretation of boundaries before were just like cut off. And granted, I'm not saying like chill, because I don't want anybody listening right now to be like, oh, so I shouldn't like cut off my boyfriend that be laying hands on me, or to some extreme. Like, no, like, yes, obviously there's times and place for cutoffs, but start to have healthy boundaries where you can just say, no, And if someone starts to say like, oh, well, why not? Because I have enough on my own plate. I don't want to fall short in other aspects of my life. So no, I'm sorry. Hey, can I get a late night appointment? Hey, girl, I'm so sorry, I can't. And in the back of my head, I'm like, girl, I want to go home. I used to work Sundays all the time, for example. And that was like, that felt so weird to me. Like, what? Like cutting off a Sunday? Like, I'm going to make less money like that. You know, so what I'm trying to say is like, I was so in fear because I started to realize that I was in control of having to switch things up. Like what I was doing wasn't working. And it took me almost wanting to be complacent and stagnant in my life to realize like, because I was just so tired. My nervous system was shot. Like, and also too, that's scary for me too. Because I'm like, what? All gas, no brakes is now shot? And I'm like, oh, well, yeah, because I'm also human. Because now I'm in control. And okay, you're in control. And what are you doing with that? You're spreading yourself too thin. And I was like, I didn't know what else to do. So I was like, I'm going to just start to create. Like, I'm going to just start to create. Like, I'm going to hit up Marmar. Let's record an episode. Let's be transparent about that. And also too, like, start to branch out with your business, see what's next. And me, that's the hardest part. Like me, my brain is so like, I want to be great. Like I want to do so much. And it's crazy, right? Because I was talking to someone and I was telling them, well, one, this is how it started off. I always vent to them about how like, I want to do so many great things in life because when I'm older and when I have kids and when I have a family and when this and that and when I retire and when I grow old and right? So I'm always keep in mind, I'm always talking to them about that. And one day their mom looks at me and they're like, Mija, ¿te vas a ir a hacer otro tatuaje? Crazy. This was the topic, right? Mija, ¿te vas a ir a hacer otro tatuaje? Like, Mija, like you're going to go do another tattoo? I was like, yeah, all excited. And mentioning, she's like super religious. She's super sweet, but she was like, Mija, like, ya no te hagas otro tatuaje. And I was like, no, yeah, like I'm going to go get another tattoo. And she's like, why do you tattoo yourself? Like, why do you mark your body? And I told her, I was like, look, I was like, my grandma passed away when she was old. My uncle passed away when he was young. He was like early 50s. I said, and my brother passed away when he was young. He was late 30s. I said, it's not a guarantee I'm going to die old. So while I'm here, I want to do what I want with my life. Obviously be intentional, have good intentions, but I want to live a life of fulfillment. I want to do what I want to do in this lifetime and have no regrets. And I want to enjoy the moment. And that's the whole point of my tattoos is enjoying the moment, living the moment. I'm not thinking about what I'm going to look like when I'm old. What are my grandkids going to say? Because it's not even a guarantee I'm going to get that far. And I know that they say power of the tongue and be careful what you say. I completely understand that. But I'm also being realistic because if I was also naive to think, oh yeah, when I grow old, correlating back to the pressures of me wanting to have such a good life. There's nothing wrong with wanting to have a good life, but it correlates back to the pressure that I have of like, I want to achieve so many great things because when I get old, like I want to do it. And then they told me the same person that I was telling like, oh yeah, when I get, older, like I want to have all these great things was the same person present, obviously, when I was talking to their mom about why I get my tattoos. And they were like, aren't you the same one that says you're not even guaranteed to die old? And that's why you get tattoos. So why are you putting so much pressure on your future and on your destiny and you're not even living in the moment? And I was like, way to shut me up with my own words, right? And so that it was just a little bit of everything. And it goes back to like, God really shines in the times of darkness. He really shines the brightest to those who are brokenhearted. And I was like, that's how I was feeling. I was feeling lonely. I was feeling brokenhearted. I was feeling like, and not so much brokenhearted because like, like love came and broke my heart. No, I was feeling more brokenhearted because I was feeling so alone and abandoned. And so like, and that's the thing, I'm not. Like, I have people that check up on me. I have people calling me, Mija, I'm thinking about you. ¿Cómo te va? How's everything? I have friends calling me, girl, where you been at? I have friends, Ash, why haven't you answered my call? And I'm over here like fearful because I'm like, how do I tell them that? Like, I'm like, I'm losing my shit. That's not like me. So I sat in it long enough to be like, that's it. Like, I'm fed up. I'm done with this. I do not like this feeling. And granted, it is draining, but I'm like, but you asked for this though. And I was struggling with that because I was like, and I kind of said it in the last episode. I said, I was like, I'm so tired from the physical part of my job that I started to feel like ungrateful. I translated it as being ungrateful. I was like, am I ungrateful for the blessings that God has given me when I literally asked for this? And I'm like, no, you're just human. You're just tired. So then I analyzed that and I was like, okay, create the solution. Start to take more days off. Okay, but what if they don't get booked out? Didn't you say God always provides enough? Like, I started to sit in my own prison cell long enough. And by prison cell, I mean like my brain, that I was like, I want out. And how do I do that? I have to start creating solutions. And I was like, yeah, I got to talk about this. I got to talk about this on the podcast because I cannot be the only one that feels this way. I cannot be the only one that feels like a prisoner trapped in their own mind, that feels like they're alone. I can't be the only one that gets fooled sometimes by the illusion and the facade of social media that everyone has it together, when in reality, we're all collectively losing our shit. We just try to hold it as good together as we possibly can. Because again, social media doesn't post failures. They just, it's a facade. And yeah, you post what you want. You post your achievements. You post and so it was collectively all coming together. My friends calling me, and I was sitting there again, trapped in my own mind of like, wow, like I'm always giving. I'm always giving. Yeah, I'm always the one providing. I'm always the one doing. I'm always the one, this and that. And yet all my friends, my community is like checking up on me, reaching out to me. Hey, you good? Mama, take a day off. Here's another thing. So in the midst of me feeling like this, right? This was right before the needle on the haystack that broke the camel's back. Me being the camel literally got my back broke, dog. So right before the week, like, that just kind of caused me to burn out completely. I was at work, right? And it's crazy because something in my heart that day, I had been feeling this. I had been feeling my heart heavy. I had been feeling tired. I had been feeling burnt out. And this is right before the actual burnout occurred, right? But I had been feeling this. And I was becoming aware, like, I'm losing my spark. I'm losing my spark, like my ambition, my drive, my fire. I'm losing it because I'm so tired. I'm so burnt out, right? And I'm driving on my way to work. And I know, like, when you guys are listening on the other end, maybe sometimes these sequence of events or like these things that happen to me maybe sound like, I don't know, like a story, but this is what you call a testimony, right? So I'm on my way to work and something that day told me, I'm going to have a really good day today. Like, I'm going to make the most out of today. I'm going to get my fire back. Like, I'm going to see what's going on, And this was around like 8:00 and I'm driving to work, whatever. And I get to work and I'm in chinga. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get this next client. Let me go to the restroom real quick. And I have literally 2 seconds to use the restroom. And when I go into the restroom, out of all times, I go and I check my hidden messages and I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, I don't know. It just happened, right? Not by coincidence, but I go and I look in my hidden messages and a girl reached out to me and she said, hey, Ashley, I don't know if you remember me. Or she's like, I don't know if you remember my sister. My sister took a class from you like 3 years ago. She goes, unfortunately, my sister passed away 2 years ago, but I wanted to reach out to you to see if you had any information regarding what wax you use, because my sister left her entire kit untouched, but I've been using her wax to kind of like keep on her legacy, like, of what she really wanted to do. That was her dream. When I met this girl, and she was a huge turning point for me as well. And in as far as like this feeling that I was having went, God really used her sister to message me as like a turning point for me. But this girl, she lived in Tehachapi. So if you guys know, I believe that's like by Bakersfield. And I was doing classes. I'm sorry. I was doing classes in Ontario. And I remember when this girl messaged me and she's like, hey, I live like 2.5, like 3 hours away from you, but I really want to take your class. Like, you know, whatever. And I said, yeah, of course. I would love to have you. I was like, oh my gosh, okay, cool. And she comes and she takes the class. And I remember she came to the class and she told me like, oh girl, my car stopped working, but like, I really wanted to come to your class. And so like, I made it, you know? And I was like, dude, thank you so much. You know, like, thank you so much. But she left such an imprint on my heart, and she was amazing. She was the first one that got up to do a demo. She was the first to raise her hand. She was like so lista and ambitious for life, dude. Like she would, again, just throw herself to the water and then figure it out. But she was so fearless and ambitious and just amazing. And she had such a bright soul. So her sister messages me and tells me like, hey, I don't know if you remember my sister. You know, she took the class from me 3 years ago. Unfortunately, she passed away 2 years ago. And this is the crazy part. A few months after she took my class, I told her, I'm like, you're a natural. Like, you're going to do great things. Like, I see it. I see your light. Like, come help me teach a class. She went from a student to helping me teach, right? And I remember she came to the class and I just told her like, hey, you're going to do great things. You're going to do great things. Like, she left such an imprint on my heart. She was always like responding to my stories, and you're such an inspiration, Ash. I love you. I'm so happy I took your class. I'm so happy that God allowed us to cross paths. Well, she had a daughter at the time that was 1.5 years old at the time of her passing. And I still remember when my brother passed away, she reached out to me and she told me, she was like, Ash, like, I'm so sorry for your loss. She passed away a month after my brother. And I had no idea. I had seen one of the other girls that helped me teach that class, that the girl that passed away, her name was Cindy Rosales. And she helped me teach a class with my friend Alex. And I seen Alex a few times and I was like, yo, have you heard from Cindy? She's like, no, have you? See her a few months later. Alex is like, hey, have you heard from Cindy? I'm like, no, bro, what the heck? Like, you know, and like me, I don't know. I just thought like life got in the way, you know, like I thought like maybe, I don't know. I was just thinking like maybe she got into a relationship. Maybe like, you know, something caused her to like just kind of like, I don't want to say disappear, but like be absent on social media. And maybe that's why I felt it more. And when I saw that message, I had to go service a client, right? And mention you, I was already almost at like the tip of my breaking point as far as like me feeling tired, me feeling unmotivated, me feeling burnt out, me feeling like everything. And dude, mid-client, like I had to tell my client, I was like, I'm sorry. Like I had to process it. Like in the moment, again, my survival instincts wanted to come out to just keep working. Like, okay, like I just, you know, like, because that's what's safest to me. This is why I'm telling you guys, like, this feels vulnerable. This feels unfamiliar, you know, because it feels almost like as though I'm being weak, and I'm not. And I'm also doing something out of the ordinary, which is like, oh, like trying to tell you guys cómo seguir adelante. And it's because like, I didn't even know how to. So I'm in the middle of my client and I tell her, I'm like, I'm so sorry. I just found out one of my good friends passed away. And she's like, no, like, you're fine. And boom, I just started crying. And I even had to process why I was crying. And I know you guys on the other end, you're like, what do you mean why? Somebody passed away? No, I had to be like, why is this hitting me so hard right now? And I was like, because you have what she prayed for. You have what she didn't get to complete. You have what she would have liked to accomplish. And you're feeling tired. And you're feeling burnt out. And you're feeling like, and it honestly, it started to translate into me being ungrateful, because I'd be like, oh my God, like 10 people today. Like, I'm not going to get off of work till 9 o'clock. Like, oh my. And it's like, whoa. She would have wished to have that. She didn't even get to complete that. Like, her kid got left untouched. When I tell you guys, I couldn't even get through my day. Like, then my next client came my next client came and I'm just bawling my eyes out. And she's dude, I'm telling you, having my business, I know you guys are probably thinking like professionalism, girl. The professionalism went out the window, girl. Like literally, Brittany came in and, you know, I do intimate waxing for those of you guys who don't know. But when you are going to perform such an intimate service, if I'm bothered, if I'm stressed, if I'm upset, if anything's weighing on me, it's very transparent. It's very transparent. So I was almost like trying not to make eye contact with Brittany because I was like, oh my God, as soon as I see her, I'm going to just start crying again. And I have to get this money. That was literally my brain. Like, I got to get this money. Like, I can't miss out. I got 4 more clients. That's $400 I need for this. And like, Brittany looks at me. She's like, entre tanto, me trying to hide eye contact. We finally make eye contact. And she's like, wait, ¿qué tienes? Like, what? Like, hey, what's wrong? And boom, I just start crying. And I'm like, I'm so ungrateful. I was like, I literally just started beating myself up. I was like, I'm so ungrateful. I'm so ungrateful. God is so good to me. God has given me such an abundance. I'm so ungrateful. I'm so ungrateful. And she's like, what? Why do you feel like that? And I told her, I was like, I just found out like my client passed away. She's a really good friend of mine though. She was so ambitious, had such a beautiful heart, a beautiful soul. Like she had a baby. Baby was only 1.5 years old. Like, you know, like it was so unexpected, like this, that, the third, you know, like, and I just start crying and I'm like, no, like I felt so unworthy. I was like, I'm so unworthy of this life. Like I'm so ungrateful. Here I am nagging, complaining. Like I was so upset with myself that I was just like beating myself up. And Brittany looks at me and it was crazy because even Brittany said it. She was like, hey, my bad, Britt. I'm over here putting your business on blast, but that you come to me. But like, no, like for real, like she's a really good friend of mine, you know, but she came and she was trying to hug me and I couldn't even be consoled. Because again, guys, I'm rewiring my brain. So like a hug to me feels weird in the moment of being so vulnerable because I feel like I'm victimizing myself. I feel like, oh, like pobrecita, you know? And I know a lot of you guys can relate. That's why I'm sharing all of this. Because same way I'm sitting here telling you guys cómo seguir adelante and how to, you know, motivate and da-da-da-da, like I also got to be real and be like, hey, because it's easier for me to be this transparent right now, even if it feels unfamiliar, even if I feel as though it's weak. And not because it is. I know it's not. I know it's not. It's just I'm rewiring my brain, guys. And that's what's always been told to me. You know, like that's weak, or like, no te hagas la víctima, you know? I've always stated about my upbringing and stuff, whatever. But I'm at a point in an age where that's not the excuse anymore. And that's the scary part because now I have to rewire it, you know? So then she finally makes eye contact with me. And then when she tries to come and hug me, she even said it. She's like, ni te dejas abrazar. And I was like, I mentioned to you, like, I'm 5'7". She's probably like 5 feet. So I literally feel like a big ass crybaby there. Like just, you know, like it felt so unfamiliar. It felt so weird. And then I told her, I'm like, no worries. Like here, I have everything set up. Like I'm gonna go to the bathroom and like, I'll be back, you know? And then I come back and I'm like, dude, like my eyes are red, like, you know? And she's like, Ash, she's like, I'll just come back another day. And I'm like, no. Like, no, like, you know, you probably have to get a babysitter, like, you know, like, and in the back of my head too, though, I'm like, yo, I gotta get this money, like, you know, trying to figure out a way to get this money by tomorrow, you know, but in all reality though, that's how my brain is wired. Like, I gotta get this done though. I gotta get this done. And so I was like, no. She's like, yeah, I'll come another day, Ash, I'll come another day. And I was like, no, she's like, ¿Cómo te voy a hacer trabajar así? ¿Cómo? And then going back to here I am, always complaining that someone always needs something out of me. And someone's literally telling me and fighting me like, chill, take time for yourself, go home, relax. Like, I'll come back another day. And I was like, no. And it took her telling me like, yes. And I'm over there like, no. And she's like, yes. I was like, okay. And I texted all my other clients and I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so sorry. Dude, it was so like embarrassing, right? Because I had a new client. I'm like, dude, it's her first time coming. She's probably thinking I'm canceling on her. I had, two other people that were coming together. I'm like, dude, they probably made this arrangement. And instead these people were like, take care of yourself, go home, go be with your family. And I'm over here thinking like, dude, they're probably going to think I'm so unprofessional. They're like, and again, that's just how your mind plays tricks on you, where you feel alone. You feel like nobody understands. You feel like no one is going to be merciful towards you. You feel like, again, just so alone. And I felt so undeserving as well. I felt like God was going to be mad at me, because I was like, here he is giving me so many blessings and I'm complaining because I'm tired. And so, and then the following week, dude, it was just a really hard week. It was like one event tras otra. And I still had to show up. I still had to go to run errands. I still had to show up for clients. I still had to show up for my family. I still had to do this. I still, and one thing that, I don't know, this is me just being transparent. Like, I feel like when you feel all that pressure, I feel like we tend to seek like a partner that can help us, with the load. And they can help. But if for every, 10 things you put on your plate, they take off 6. And then here you are, you have 4 and you add another 8. Like, it's really not even helpful, because it's not that their efforts are not helpful. It's that because of your lack of boundaries, you're exhausting yourself even more. Like, you're getting the help, and then out of routine, you're just exhausting yourself even more. And and so, yeah, I think that that's where I would always look for that help. And even when I was getting it, I was just like, dude, it doesn't feel like enough. And not because it's not, but because I'm lacking those boundaries with myself. I'm lacking self-love. I'm lacking, because that's what it is. That's honestly setting boundaries is self-love, but it feels so unfamiliar to me, guys. It feels so weird. I got a phone call the other day and was like, hey, I need you to do this. This is not, I'm going to transfer you the money, because I need to get this done and that done. Da, 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 da. Mention you. I'm like mid-month in my own bills. I got the business. I got everything. And I just said, hey, notice every time you call me for something, it's for something. Sometimes I answer your phone calls just to see if the tone is going to change, where you're not asking me for something. And every single time I answer, you're asking me for something. Call my brother, figure it out. And I hung up. And it was my dad calling. And it's almost like, I know, dude. Hispanic parents are going to hear this and they're going to be like, you're comparing me to what? But it's almost like a drug addict, where the more that you're there, the more it's expected. It's like the more you're there every time to give them the $5, $10, the more you're there to serve them, the more you're there to pick them up, the more you're there for everything. It's like, and then who's there for me? And that's just how I started to feel. And I started to feel so alone. And for the first time, I had to put a boundary, and I felt so guilty. And I was like, oh my God. It's like, dude, it just felt like a treadmill was underneath me and it wouldn't stop. And even though it felt so good to not have to take that weight on, it felt so unfamiliar to me. And it brought me back to feeling like, oh, I'm alone and this and that. And I noticed I have so many amazing people around me. I have so many people that motivate me, that inspire me. And I'm not trying to not give myself credit here, but what's the difference between me and them? Why? Because I have a platform. But then I'm even thinking like that though, Ash, change your thought process. God gave you this platform for a reason. I started looking at my following and everything that I've done and all just the interactions and that I've had on social media, all the kind comments and, good, bad ones, whatever. But I just started seeing all the engagement. I started seeing how many impactful moments I've made or have been transparent about. And I was like, your journey is harder because your calling is greater. So come on, you're not alone. Come on. And trust me, I have my loved ones in Christ that call me and they reach out to me. Hey, I've been thinking about you since last week. ¿Cómo vas? hey, like I want to talk. ¿Cómo estás? How you doing? To make sure you take care of yourself. And I think I got so tired of just being like, oh, it's just so much right now. It's so much. Like, dude, as long as we have life, we're going to have problems. You just have to learn how to handle them better. And I think me feeling like I did not know how to handle them started to make me feel weak because I've been so used to having control of everything. And I'm like, hold on. Yo, you've been through worse. You let other stuff just roll off your shoulder. And I was like, why is it getting to you now? One of my friends told me, girl, I thought you would have got tired a long time ago. And I was like, I'm surprised too. I called her and I was like, yo, like, I'm cutting myself, like I'm spreading myself way too thin. Like I reached out and I remember like, I went on my close friends and I was like, I just want you guys to know, I was like, I'm not okay. Like, and it wasn't a cry for attention. It was just like, I have so many people that love me that like, I don't know. I just was like, I'm not okay right now. I can't always have it together. And I think that was the point of this episode today, is to like sit here and tell you guys like, the enemy will try to get you weak and he'll get you tired because he knows what's to come. And don't get me wrong, I'm a very ambitious person, but I'm also super hard on myself that I started to feel farther away in my faith. I don't sit there and like read my Bible every single night. But then during the darkest time, I opened up my Bible. I started reading the book of Matthew. And I even said to myself, like, what am I going to do? Feel peace because I'm reading this? Actually, I did. I felt peace. And I was like, man, I haven't felt that in a long time. People that are near to me, as far as like, my faith, started reaching out. Friends started reaching out. One friend even messaged me, shout out to Brooke. She messaged me and she said, what can I do to lighten your load? And I was like, so many people are showing up. Why do you still feel alone? And I had to realize like, I'm rewiring my brain. Wait, well, your brain can also make you feel like a prisoner trapped in your own mind. And wait, where is this coming from? The enemy. He's trying to get me tired. Because then the moment I started to be like, let me create, it's because something great's coming. I started to reach out to people that I want on my podcast. Hey, hey, would you like to come on? I would really like for you to share your story. And I started to expand. I started to create. Let me expand my platform. Let me expand my business. Let me start to look at certain vendors for this and that. Because I started to see everybody moving along. I started to see my homegirls that also do the podcast. I seen Brooke, Lena, like Jackie, like I started to see all of them like keep recording. And I'm like, I would like to do something like, I'm like, girl, you do something like that. Get to doing it, girl. Like get to doing it. There's like the podcast. I started to see girls that like really though, like I know they'd probably be like, what? Like you look up to me, but people that motivate me, I started to see my homegirl, Annabella, like shout out XO Beauty. Like I started to see her create and develop and grow. And I was like, yo, like that started to motivate me. And it felt so unfamiliar because I'm so used to being the one to motivate. I'm so used to being the one to just do. I'm so used to it. And I think that it took that me reaching that low point and me almost for a second, like the enemy almost got me for a second wanting to stay comfortable and wanting to stay stagnant because my nervous system was shot out. And I started to reflect and all the things that I've said over the years, like me sharing my testimony, everything. And down to even having a girl that came in, she got serviced by me and she was just like, oh, like, she told me, how does your dad feel about all the success that you've reached with your business and social media and the videos blowing up? And I said, oh, like, he thinks it's cool. Like, it's a Hispanic parent. He don't care about how many TikTok followers I got. He's still gonna make me do them dishes, girl, or like whatever, like whatever responsibility I have to uphold. He's not gonna be like, oh, ya la titoquera no me va a ayudar con esto y el otro. Like I'm still, just his daughter. And I told her, I was like, well, I mean, don't get me wrong. I said, yeah, I've had recognition on social media, but I've also had to do the hard work. And I started telling her like all the things that have gone wrong. Like this happened. And look, I still had to overcome this. And so, girl, it's been hard. And she's like, maybe that's your testimony. And I was like, what? Like, I'm thinking I'm thinking she's going to be like, Well, like, good. I'm glad you overcame it, you know? But she was like, well, maybe that was your testimony. Maybe that's all been meant to happen because that's your testimony. And those are all the things you've overcome. But to me, I was like, well, those are the same things getting me tired, girl. Those are the same things that got me burnt out. So it's like, look, all the moving pieces here, from hearing about Cindy's passing, seeing my friends continue to grow, level up, expand, create, feeling so alone and having my friends reach out to me, kind of just wanting to get comfortable and then feeling so uncomfortable because I was like, if I get comfortable, what's next for my life? What's next for my future? What's next for this? And I'm like, if you don't know what's next, get to creating, get to moving. And then it started to make me reflect back on my faith. Well, you always say God provides enough. Well, you always say, you know, so it's like, guys, like all these moving pieces started to like light that fire in me. And granted, I'm still like, my nervous system is still shot out. I can go back to feeling weak if I wanted to, but I'm like right now I'm trying to research a bunch of like key ingredients and product that I want to, you know, bring in and this and that, and I have to do my research, right? Because I have to stimulate my mind, and as good as it feels, it takes time, it takes effort, and it takes energy and everything. And I could go back to like getting off work today and be like, I just want to chill, and I'm like, no, you don't grow in comfortability, Ash. Like that's never been your place. And I'm like, oh, but I'm so tired. And I'm like, okay, well, go back to what you just said. Like, you're now having to establish healthy boundaries. Because to me, again, like, and I have an episode where I say that, like, oh, like, I was talking about like forgiveness, and I was like, why do you let people do this? Why do you let people that? And, and it's like, dude, people are going to treat you according to how you let them. And this is the thing, if you just cut off, granted, certain people deserve the cut off, but if you just cut off, I think that's more weak. I think that's more cowardly, like to just kind of like cut off instead of establishing that healthy boundary and just saying no. Well, why? Because I have my own stuff going on. Can you get somebody else to do it? It's like, oh, because, dude, with this world we live in, like people don't know when to stop taking. And I get having a servant's heart, and I get wearing your heart on your sleeve. I get all that. But like, it got me tired. It got me really tired. And now I'm like looking forward to like what the future has. Because I'm like, God didn't bring me this far to just like leave me here. So síguele adelante. Like, and I've always said, I feel like God always has a purpose for me when it comes down to like my business slowing down. And okay, so for the last few months, my business has not slowed down. Like, I've been fully booked almost every single day, right? And it's funny. Today I was wondering, I was like, does God have a sense of humor? And I think he does, because the last few months have been so busy. And I was just going. And the last 2 days, like Thursday and Friday, it was so slow for me. And I was like, why is it so slow? And I'm like, it took me being outside of the distraction from work to be alone with my own thoughts and to think and to manifest and to create and to come up with what's next. And so many people speak life into me. As much as I've had negative things happening to me in my life, so many people speak life into me. My friends, Ashley, you're so talented at this, and like, you know, clients tell me like, oh, you do such a good job. Like, and it all starts with me. And despite me getting tired, despite the enemy trying, despite everything I was feeling, it's making me get closer to my faith. You know, and also being more kind to myself. I think it took me being so hard on myself to learn to be kind to myself. Like, I'm not going to be perfect. I'm not going to hit the gym every single day, eat it every single meal prep, and, you know, be in bed by 9:00 and like make sure I read my 30 minutes of the Bible. Like, granted, I can try my best to have discipline, but that's something I've talked about even on the podcast, that I cannot have control over everything. I have to just try to, one, let go and let God, and just take each day as it comes while still having good intentions and having ambition, but don't overdo it. You know, so many of my friends have been so motivational during this time, and I just see them from afar. And it's crazy because I see them from afar, and sometimes even I'm fooled by how well they carry things. And then when I talk to them in person, they're like, girl, I'm going through it too. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to grow here. I'm like, how are you doing it? They're like, I don't know. I'm figuring it out. I'm like, damn, well, you do such a good job of like making it seem so easy, you know? And it took that, guys, for me to just learn. So with that being said, I think I've said everything I can say. I look forward to see what the future has. If you feel like you're reaching a bottom, like, or like not rock bottom, but like the bottom of your well, you guys know like a water well, when it fills up, then it goes back down. If you're reaching the bottom of it, just know that it's not punishment. God's just realigning you. And we don't know why it happens. Every season is for a reason. And I think the last 4, close to 5 years of my life have just been constant realignment and lessons. And he's just teaching me along the way. And I think I've been so used to having control over everything because that's what feels safest to me. And the more I try to control, the more I'm not in control. And that's the beauty of life. And that's what I have to learn to sit in and marinate and soak up is the moment. Be ambitious, but don't be too hard on yourself. Don't feel alone. This time period, I think, taught me a lot about mental health. And don't let your brain play tricks on you. Don't be so hard on yourself. Vamos a fracasar. We're going to slip up, because that's when you get off track is when you know to get back on, you know, again, realignment. And so I just hope that, again, I didn't come into this episode with the intention to motivate anybody. I was for real trying to tell y'all, like, I was just not well. Everything was hitting, life was lifing. And it took me reaching the bottom of my water well, I guess you could say, to try to come back up and spring back up. And yeah, I'm still going to trip. I'm going to have my moments, but I hope that this episode was able to serve you guys purpose and that you guys know that, like, this is as vulnerable as I could have gone. And I hope that this episode was able to serve you guys purpose. So many more things are to come. And I want to show you guys different sides of me. I want to show you guys the funny side of me. I want to show you guys just the more like positive side of me. And that I'm imperfect as well. Even though I come on here and I tell you guys, like, no, all gas, no brakes, go ahead, siguen adelante. It's like, life don't always work like that. Like, you can't, like, you know, it doesn't, you know, and you got to be able to carry it better. I feel like the less I was in control of how I was carrying things, and the more I let it affect me, the more that I felt like weak. And I was like, yo, it's weaker to not know how to control things or not know how to like ride the wave. Instead, just like, just ride it out. So we're all figuring it out along the way. So, you know, you guys message me, you guys tell me you're so motivational. Ash, never stop doing this. You know, trust me, guys, like, even when the times that I'm absent on the podcast, I'm still doing something. And I think that also too, like I said, God always provides enough. And especially not only in abundance of life, health, everything else, but for those of you who are entrepreneurs or self-employed or just in general that want to achieve something, I'm very aware that achieving something, whether that's a business, a goal, you know, buying a house, buying a car, like whatever it is you want to achieve, that takes the vessel of money, right? Because that's what I have, like, with my podcast, with my business, expanding my business, bringing in, you know, new streams of income, all that stuff. Just know that when you have intention, you get the abundance of the financial part. Like, money with intention goes a lot longer and comes in more in abundance than if you were just like aimlessly living life and not knowing what to do with it. So I hope that didn't make you guys feel so alone. If it motivated you, cool. But like, for once, I guess you could say that wasn't my intention with today's episode. And I think you guys can hear the authenticity in my voice. Like, when I know that I'm confident in an episode is I know that my heart was transparent. And that's all I've ever wanted from this podcast. So with that being said, all right, get it together. It's okay to not be okay. Don't be so fooled by the things on social media. We don't all have it together. Sometimes it takes you straying away from your faith to want to get closer. Take a look at the blessings around you. Don't wait till it's too late to achieve what you want to, but also to don't be so hard on yourself. Be kind to yourself. Don't let the enemy win, guys. I love you guys so much. Thank you guys for tuning into Todo en Vida podcast. I will see you guys on the next episode. Peace out. And yeah, wherever you guys are at, rock out the rest of your day. Stay positive. I love you guys so much. Thank you guys for tuning in. Bye.